What's up, gang? It's Deltia from DeltiaSgaming.com here with a video on top 5 Maelstrom Arena tips for you. Whether you're getting this on console in a couple days or you've been battling on the PC with the Maelstrom Arena. It's hard, it's nasty, but here I am to bring you some tips. I got it done on my Templar, currently I think third. Yeah, currently third right now, North American server. Those will go up and down as we start learning more and more about it. But it's very, very hard. And 5 things I've learned so far doing this. This video series will be followed with step-by-step guide on each stage as we progress through Maelstrom Arena. Like that costume? That comes with beating this sucker. We're at the nasty, ugly little portal of death and destruction here. And the number 1 tip, the most important, I'm not supposed to reveal this till I am, but I'm just going to say it right now, is damage. Damage, 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 damage. If you can nuke through some of these things, you can avoid a lot of other complicated strategies and just surviving. It's a combination of damage, survival, and yes, you got it, more damage. So the build that I'm using currently is my Omega build. I pumped up a little bit more health in here. You can see I'm at 22,000, 32,000 magic. Now, if you can use shields and you want to shield stack with your magic class, you want to do that. If you're a stamina class, you want to go high recovery so you can do more dodge rolls. I'm using the Twiceborn star set, so increased critical strike and increased critical strike damage. So basically the same thing I've been wearing on my other builds, Twiceborn star and then the Engine Guardian with the crappy little helm here. And then willpower, jewelry, so on and so forth. Nirnhone. And I got this cool little staff, woot woot. But you have to do a monster amount of damage. So when these guys spawn, it really behooves you to have a skill that you can spam over and over while the teleporters are spawning. So let me go show you this. You're also going to want to keep up your 2 major buffs as well. So when you get in here, you're going to buff up. And you see my food's running out like a noob. Eat your food. Now you tri-stat food. See how those portals are spawning like that? You can actually damage them. Every class has a way to damage them before they appear. So let's see if we can't get you another one to show you. And also I have a gap closer here. I know it is PvE, but I treat it basically like my PvP build. See right here? You can get early damage by just using puncturing sweeps. Now you'll notice this build is all about self-healing through puncturing sweeps. I'm melee, but I've built it so heavy into puncturing sweeps that I basically can kill something even if it's doing tons and tons of damage. And that brings me to my next tip. The next step up is know thy class. Yes, know your class. That sounds obvious and simple, but it's not so much. Each class has strengths and weaknesses you want to counter when you get in here. So for instance, my Templar is inherently slow. So I went with dual wield and used quick cloak a lot. That way I get 5 seconds of massive movement speed. On a Sork, you're not going to have that problem. But you are going to be able to kite around on a Sork, and that's your major weapon. On a Magic Templar, I know I can sit here and spam sweeps and get massive self-healing. On a Nightblade, you might have to play more deceptive, and everything else combined with it, you have to know your class. What ultimates should you use and why? For instance, Solar Prison is going to be really powerful when I need damage reduction. But when I'm trying to straight just destroy something, I need to use Shooting Star. Also, what abilities do you have that are already buffs? I don't have a spell power buff like Major Sorcery, but I do have the crit buff. The reason I like to not use Inner Light on this magic build right now is because I need the extra skills, more utility. Since I lack speed, I have Quick Cloak. Since I do still lack speed, I can't streak around, I'm using Toppling Charge. And as Dragon Knight, you're going to have some other options to you, such as Reflect, other self-healing. You need a self-heal. You need to be able to survive under pressure. So understanding your class. Are you heavy range? If you are, stick to what you do best, running around in a circle with speed. If you're not, build your melee character around self-healing. So for my guy here, in the champion points, you can see I have 47 points into quick recovery. 47. That's a lot of self-healing using jabs. 10 points. I'm capped at the good old cap here. I didn't do any in Blessed because I don't think it's that necessary, but every little thing that I'm doing is pumped up for self-healing. Know your class, what you're good at, what you're not. Knowing your class and also knowing the encounter specifically kind of go hand in hand. And defensive wins championships. That's appropriate to say now. What you need is a defensive plan. Self-healing and defense go hand in hand. So on earlier rounds when I was kind of feeling my way through it, everyone has access to the defensive stance. What it does is it reflects a projectile. No, this is not arrows, but it's a lot of the casters, especially the day draw stages. I usually go sword and board and use a reflect. I also have powerful self-healing with repentance, and then you're going to want, as a magic user, to use wards. Healing ward specifically with the resto staff, and then light armor, harness magic. A defensive stamina build is going to want to use evasion, dodge chance, speed, maneuverability. That is your weapon for success. And then also vigor here, the Alliance War. I don't see how you're going to beat it without vigor. It's going to be very, very hard. But remember, damage, damage, damage. So let me show you how valuable this is. And so I only have Blazing Shield, my class-specific abilities, but it's scaled off my max health. Since I'm not a tank, it's not exactly the best resource management way to prevent damage. So what I do is I have this little deflect up. And that's not a deflectable skill. Come on, I'm making a video. Of course. See that? Boom. Now that did 7.6k damage to this little guy. And I can cast it over and over. But it doesn't block arrows, as you see. So, let's say I do stand in red poopy poop. Oh my god. Healing ward. It's going to put this big bubble over me. And when it pops, I'm going to go to full health. Basically, as long as you have magic and you can click one button, you can survive with this healing ward only. Remember, stand builds, you're going to have to be moving and grooving. Magic builds, I can face tank just using these two things. Defensive stance, healing ward, puncturing sweeps. Ah! See this death screen? I saw this a lot when I first attempted this thing, and you will too. The next tip I have to give you is don't freak out if you die. Remember, I'm not a solo player, so it took me a while to catch on to how to play things solo without relying on specific roles, and it might take you a while as well. You have 500 lives, so you might spend 8 hours in here just to get to stage 6 or something. Do it. It's worth it. It's a pain in the butt, but once you learn the specific mechanics, it's not that hard. For instance, almost every boss round has an enrage timer. It means if you don't do something specific in that round, you're going to encounter an enraged boss, which will basically kill you or anything around. So an example of this is one of the hardest stages, which is stage 6. You basically have to get all the totems down, which stuns the boss, allowing you to do big damage. So another thing, another tip, this is number 4 I think, is also know when to do damage. Don't drop your ultimates early on ad stages like this. You're going to want to wait for a boss round. Once you encounter the boss once or twice, if you die, you're going to know when there's a break in action. So for instance, when these ads all die, I know now I can put pressure on the boss specifically and blow him up. Are we on the boss round yet? And then also, you want a placeable ultimate like this, Nova, and then one not so much. The reason I place it there is I can do damage early before the ad even comes out of their little tunnel thing. Come here, you. And also, what are these guys? They're Daedra. A lot of rounds have Daedra in them, and flame damage. I'm not a vampire right now because I knew this would be hard with it. So you can see all my tips here coming to fruition. So I'm just going to buff, and then big AoE, and see that just heals me through it. I'm keeping up my buffs. The more targets I hit with this, the more damage I do. Kind of like a Stamp Sork. So I'm using my resources effectively. So stamina when I need to dodge roll and I'm kind of low on magic. And that's it. Know thy class, know the area. Don't get frustrated if you get blown up a lot. Everyone has the very first time. Now the next secret here, or tip is, what the hell are these things? These little individual things are power-ups. They affect your score, but will allow you to be able to complete the content if you're not worried about score. So you have a damage defensive one, you have a healing one, you have a speed one, which Templars love since I'm a slow little tater tot, and then you have what I think is the most important, which is damage. So if I'm behind damage here, I'm going to wait for this boss. Just doing my thing here, surviving. I'm going to wait for the boss to reposition. Then I'm going to use my power up. I get 30 seconds of it to blow him up. Come here, tater tot. We're going to use all of our lessons to kill you and prove how amazing we are at killing NPCs. See, I have so much self-healing, I'm standing in poopy poop. And I can just deal with it. And weapon swap to good old execution mode. Okay, so now they're putting pressure back on me. It's okay, I'll just sweeps my way through it. Sweeps to victory. One button warrior. And it works. So the power-ups you're going to use in a specific sequence on very, very hard fights. Generally speaking, you're going to have one time to use these only per round. Not stage, per round. So if there's individual rounds and then there's a stage. So this is stage 1. It has, I think, 3 rounds and then a boss round. Remember, you can use these individual power-ups each specific round. They reset. But your resources do not reset. So after a round is done, you're going to need to be able to quickly get back your resources. So on a Templar, I'm using Channel Focus. On a Sorc, I'm going to use Dark Conversion. Maybe siphoning attacks on a Nightblade. A Dragon Knight, I'm going to use Ultimates. And then you're going to do a rotation on these things if you're in trouble. Usually the first phase of a boss round is going to allow you to do a lot of damage to them until you start experiencing other encounters. What I highly recommend is when you first try to learn this, use them all. Use them all the time. Make it super powerful because you need the experience to get through this stuff. Once you start learning the encounters, then you're going to know when to time this. So for instance, one of the hardest stages in the game, the very last fight, I don't want to ruin it for you, but there comes a time where the boss is immobilized, where it can't do something if you follow a specific set of rules. What you want to do is optimize your DPS right then. You're going to save up your ultimates. You're going to get all your buffs up, and then when you see that weapon thing, click it, drop ultimates, kaboom, you get 30 seconds of DPS time. And generally speaking, with 2 phases of that, I can usually down a boss. So you're just surviving, doing damage when you can, using these things all together, and nuking this Maelstrom arena. It is hard. Very hard. Well, gang, that's my top 5 tips for Little Maelstrom Arena. Some just food for thought. Don't freak out when you die a lot. You're going to die a lot learning this, unless you look up a guide, which I will have one, and please look it up. Because in order to learn the mechanics, you're just going to have to go through the struggle of learning it. Remember, this is PvE, right? So the mobs don't change, you do. And when your understanding comes into the ability and skills and gear, that's when you complete content easily and regularly. We're already starting to clear this stuff with little under 10 deaths. So first day 1, it seemed impossible. We were all complaining, and now not so much. So give it time, just like Dragonstar Arena, and you're going to need to play solo. I'm not a solo player, so I had to take a step back and adjust my gameplay to be survival based on exactly what it is I'm doing. I'm going to try to beat this on all my builds. It will take a while because, yeah, it took me 2.5 hours to beat on my Templar. So don't expect it to be done next week, but there is hope for every class. Some classes have major advantages over others, like Sorcs. Templars seem pretty good, but not a whole lot of people are clearing this. So just wait a while. I'll have each stage guides, walkthroughs, and more Maelstrom Arena coverage if you like Orsinium solo play. Bye, boy!